Hi, it's Tim Hagen from Progress Coaching, and today we're going to talk about self-awareness coaching. Now, for 28 years, I've been teaching coaching in the workplace. And one of my philosophies is coaching is a two-step process. Number one, it's getting someone to look in the mirror for the strength-based stuff, the good stuff, as well as the constructive stuff. And then number two, taking action on what they see in number one. Yet very few people do number one arbitrarily on their own. And I've said that many, many times. Self-awareness is what leaders need. It's what individual contributors, employees need. It's what an organization needs. See, it's tough to look in the mirror. Sometimes we don't like what we see, so we avoid it. And I had a session with a client, and I'll never forget this. I had never heard this before. Someone said, when you point the finger at other people, don't forget you got three fingers pointing back at you. I had never heard that before, and I love it. And a lot of times when we point at other people, we're deflecting. We don't want people to look at us. Maybe we know they're going to see something they don't like. Maybe it's stuff that we don't like. Self-awareness is tough. So in EQI, emotional intelligence, and we're certified through multi-health systems out of Canada. When we do this work, it's amazing what people learn about themselves. And self-awareness really starts the process of self-improvement. If you don't have self-awareness, you're going to try to go to training or coaching or mentoring and say to yourself, I don't have any issues. I'm pretty good at what I do. And I'll give this a try. It's not going to work. And the other day I led a session with individual contributors. And I remember about 4 or 5 people said, well, we'll see if this works. And we were teaching them how to be employee-driven coaches, employee-based coaches. And I said to all 4 people, I said, don't do it. And they said, what? I said, don't do it. If you're already skeptical about coaching having a positive impact, you shouldn't do it. You're not in the right mindset. And someone said, yeah, but I said, no, stop. Don't do it. You're going to waste your time. You're going to waste my time. You're going to waste your company's money. Don't do it. And they were really stunned. And I did that for effect because I wanted them to see you can't go into something skeptical and say, you know what? I'm really skeptical, but I think it's going to produce some pretty positive outcomes. And what I was trying to show them was that you're not there. You're not the right candidate for this. All 4 people immediately went back and complained, which I kind of knew they were going to do. So my contact called me and said, what happened? I said, let me type in an email or in a chat what happened factually. Then you're going to tell me when I'm done typing what they said. So we did that. And they said they felt attacked. They felt like I put them on the spot. And so I typed in my message, what happened, the sequence, and it was really funny. And she said, boy, it's a really different version. I said, I didn't attack. I responded to them after they factually said, we'll see if this works. I don't know if this will work. We've tried stuff like this before. It never works. And they were 4 people. And I said, then don't do it because you're not in the right mindset. Their interpretation of what happened actually proves my point. They probably weren't in the right mindset. They're not ready to be coaches, and it could be detrimental. And so she went back and talked to each one of them. And they said, well, did Tim attack you or put you on the spot, or was he reacting to a comment? All 4 people said, I don't remember. Now they're good people, right? They're young, they're learning, and self-awareness is tough. So when you think about self-awareness coaching and you think about self-awareness, I love Tasha Urich's work. If you haven't bought her book, Insight, it talks about a study that she does where she surveyed people and 95% of the people said they were highly self-aware. When she tested them, she found out only 10% were somewhat aware. Think about that. That's an 85% disparagement. Now let's add a little humor and context to it. When was the last time someone came into your office and said, you know what, boss? My attitude is for crap. I'm going to undermine you. I'm going to talk about you at the water cooler. And I'm probably going to sneak out early because I don't want to help my teammates. Now, I bet you're laughing a little bit. Self-awareness is tough. So I want you to think about a learning component. Just think about a learning component or an attribute such as a positive video, a motivational quote, observation of someone who's positive and inspirational. And let's just keep this at a very generic, ambiguous level just for the time being. Here's a 3-part sequence you can use to drive self-awareness. Now, I just did this with a company, individual contributors, not the ones I was alluding to before. And I said, I want you to watch this video. And I played a motivational video. And I think I played parts of a commencement speech by Denzel Washington. And I love to listen to him speak. He's fantastic. And his insight in life philosophy is, I think, pretty intuitive. So what I did is I had everyone write down an answer to the following question. So what did you learn from this presentation? That's a learning question. Pretty simple, right? What did you learn? See, a lot of times we just show it and we leave it as is. The next question I asked was the self-awareness question. I believe this is one of the best questions you can ask anybody. So what did you learn about yourself that you're positively committed to improving? What did you learn about yourself that you're positively committed to improving? It's a total self-awareness question. Now, once that's done, you ask what is called a positive action question. It sounds nuts, but you then say, so what are the steps? What are the positive things you're going to do going forward based on the learnings you just shared with me? That's using a structure called framing. Pretty simple technique, but it frames out their response, but it frames out their mindset to do what? To move in the right direction. So let me go back to those 4 people. So I circled the wagons with each one of them. And I said, you were chosen to be a peer-based coach. And these were all 4 one-on-ones. They all said yes. I said, when you gave your response, we'll see if this works. Were you talking about the program or yourself? All 4 people go, well, the program. I said, the program works. I've been teaching it for 28 years. If it didn't work, I wouldn't be in business. I think you were talking about yourself. And when you said, we'll see if it works, how would you honestly characterize that? All 4 people said, well, it probably wasn't the most positive. Of course, they weren't going to say it was negative. Probably wasn't the most positive. I said, so what are you going to do positively going forward to put yourself in a mindset of being a peer-based coach, to being a positive influence, an inspirational influence? All 4 people said, I've got to get the right mindset. I've got to get my attitude right. They knew it. What was I doing? I was holding up the mirror. I was holding it up right in front of their face using questions. All 4 people reacted very favorably. People have moments in time where they lose self-awareness. So emotional intelligence isn't a personality assessment. It's about how you leverage your emotions. Coaching, where we ask questions, where we get clarity for ourselves, actually builds self-awareness in those people. And we lose those moments. 4 very nice people, by the way, when I did the one-on-ones. Yet they chose in front of a large group to give permission to everybody to not try. And I used that statement with one person. She goes, that's not what I was intending. I said, so everybody in that room heard you say, we'll see if it works. Do you think that increased their effort? Or do you think that gave them a thought of, yeah, maybe this won't work? I said, it sure as heck didn't increase anybody's effort. And she said, okay, I get what you're saying. I said, well, I'm not saying anything. I'm asking. And we just had this wonderful conversation. And she said later, she said, but I'm going to face negative people. Now we got into it. I said, so let me put some frosting on the cake. She said, okay. I said, so you led, let's just call it negativity or maybe arduous perspective, and you're worried about people who are negative. I said, tell me how that combination is going to work. And I smiled and she goes, it's not going to work well at all. And then she smiled and I said, so what is your special gift? She said, excuse me? I said, what's your special gift? You got something? If your friend said, wow, that's what makes her special, what is it? She said, well, I really care about people. I'm a really good friend to people. So, okay, let's take that. How are you going to successfully put that into your coaching, in your investment of your teammates? And what do you think the positive outcome will be? And what are the steps you're going to take going forward? And what do you think we could do together? Guess what? We just kept gaining momentum. So when we're talking about self-awareness coaching, whether it's teamwork, motivation, lack of energy, attitude, arduous behaviors, not accepting feedback, no matter what it is, provide a learning component. Then ask them, what did you learn? Number 2, what did you learn about yourself you're positively committed to improving? That's something that we teach in our system called the Self-Actualized Question. It actualizes the behavior. It's a what question plus a success imperative. Here's the best one. What positive steps are you going to take going forward based on what you learned? And what can I do to assist you? That's a great coaching question. At the foundation of how we collaborate, communicate, coach, receive feedback, give feedback, whatever it is, at the foundation of discord in teams and organizations, departments, silos, is a lack of self-awareness. Let me give you a lack of self-awareness as it relates to silos. So when you think about a sales and a marketing team, right? When sales go up, do you honestly think salespeople go, oh my gosh, it wasn't us. Marketing was awesome. Anybody could have sold it. It's not what happens. Yet when sales go down, do salespeople raise their hands and say, you know what? Marketing did a pretty good job. Our selling skills were just off this year. Probably doesn't happen. So what happens is silos are created. And by the way, marketing does it to sales and vice versa. And I had I've shared this story before. Two departments. I had a leader call me and say, I got two departments that are under my guidance and leadership, and they just don't work well together. And we've got to get collaboration. There's so much discord. So I watched one of their meetings, and I've shared this before again, where I was making slash marks. And he whispers to me, he goes, what are you doing? I said, look at the people when someone else is talking. Look at the people and how they react non-verbally. Now, the part of the story I really haven't shared publicly is that when I made those slash marks, I think I was up to 19 acts of nonverbal discord, such as, and we're just showing discord nonverbally. So what was so funny about it is when I counted these, he went back, or we actually met with both teams separately, and we said, so do you feel like you listen to each other? Everyone goes, yeah, we listen to the other team. I said, do you think you are conducting yourself like at a very high professional level? Everybody goes, yeah, I think we're doing that pretty well. And so my counterpart, the vice president, goes, all right, Tim, give him the statistics. And I said, in the first 11 minutes, you had 19 acts, dare I say, of nonverbal discord that were borderlining obnoxious. Yeah. And everyone was like this. And I said, I'm not here to criticize you. I'm here to help. Maybe you're aware, maybe you're not aware. Guy raises his hand. He said, 19 times we did that. I said, amongst all of you, there wasn't a person who didn't demonstrate that while your teammates were talking. The minute somebody talked, you had an emotional trigger that went you into disagreement mode, and you let them know it before you even spoke. 19 times. So what we ended up doing is, in order to respond to the other person at the next meeting, you had to demonstrate active listening. So they did it, and they demonstrated active listening. And within 21 minutes, they came to a consensus and a collaborative effort to work together more effectively. They weren't that far apart. Yet, because of the lack of self-awareness, they weren't even aware they were shoving people back. I think one of the greatest things you can do, especially here in the States, is get a Republican and a Democrat together for lunch and say, calmly have a discussion. It doesn't happen usually, right? Because what do? We try to win. We don't try to understand the other person's viewpoint. And when we try to win and we get emotional and our blood pressure gets higher, do we increase self-awareness or do we lose self-awareness? We typically will lose it. At the foundation of every leader and every individual contributor, ability to perform better, doesn't mean they're doing anything wrong, perform better, is as a result of self-awareness. Now, the last thing, I'm going to do a little sales pitch here. We've created our own assessment methodology called the F10. The F10 asks a series of self-awareness coaching questions, and it's done in an assessment form. We actually give the form to somebody, the link to their own personalized assessment to Tom, Joe, Sally, Bill, whoever it is. And they send it out to people they choose. But it has to be upper level management, coworkers, peers, and people outside the organization. And then we look at people's different perspectives of that person, helping them do what? Build their self-awareness. We have got to teach people the value of feedback, to teach people to go get feedback on their own terms. I just had a conversation with a very young employee, and she said, I got this feedback and I was really mad, and I just sat there and I was tightening up and I just felt like I couldn't talk. And I said, well, what was the feedback? well, they felt like I was going too slow. I wasn't doing this well and blah, blah, blah. And I said, were they right? Well, not entirely. I said, so why are you entirely angry? She stopped and I said, take a deep breath. Think about why did they give you that feedback? Number one, before you say anything, I'm going to take one thing off the table they didn't do. She said, what's that? I said, they didn't do it to hurt your feelings or ruin your weekend. But go ahead. Why do you think they give you that feedback? And she started laughing. She goes, God, I just felt so defensive. I said, oh my gosh, we all do. I said, so what I want you to think about is, do you know the top 3 things that manager, the person who gave you the feedback, thinks about you? What they know to be your top 3 strengths? She said, well, no, they haven't. I said, calm down. Go ask them. She said, what? I said, go ask them and say, I want to tell you, I really appreciated the feedback the other day. Just so I don't make assumptions, what are 2 or 3 areas you feel like I'm performing well? And maybe what's another area where I could raise my game? The way you get feedback on your terms is to ask for it before somebody feels the need to give it to you. Let me say that again. The way you do that is to get feedback in your terms, asking for strengths and opportunities where you can raise your game. Notice I'm not even saying constructive feedback, where somebody can go to that next level. And if you do that before they feel the need to give you feedback, guess what happens? Feedback isn't as much of a loaded weapon as it feels like when it's thrust upon you. So I've coached volleyball for 31 years, and I teach my guys all the time. Always ask for feedback. And kids will come up and say, Coach, how am I doing? What am I doing well? Where can I raise my game? And 16, 17, 18-year-old kids do this stuff. And I even have kids in club, 12 and 13, who do it. The key to doing this is to give people the power to control their own feedback. What does that do at a foundation level? It raises their self-awareness. Let me give you another example. When you think about youth sports today, because I just brought up volleyball, and you think about a parent who goes to the coach and goes home and is frustrated because his or her son or daughter isn't playing much. A spiral happens. The kid starts to think, hey, you know what? It's not me. It's not me. I got a bad coach. When I hear an 18-year-old or lower age person say not a very good coach, I will go right at, if I hear one of my guys say that, I go right at him and say, let me understand something. Have you ever coached? No. And I said, so you're being critical of them being good at something, of something you've never done before. Take a deep breath and think about how that comes off. I've had guys come back. Sorry, coach, I was out of line. I said, I'm happy you're willing to receive that conversation. Don't judge until you become a judge. Don't judge until you become a judge. Get in someone's shoes. It's entirely different. And so what we have to do with self-awareness is get people to look at themselves. Here's the power of looking at yourself in the mirror. You're not looking at other people. It's tough. There's no getting around it. It's tough. A lot of people don't like to look in the mirror. When you look in the mirror, the greatest coach you can have is yourself. If you're not willing to invest in you and someone tries to invest in you, you're going to have a fractional return on investment. Fractional. And I often think, coaching is an investment in somebody else who normally will not invest in themselves. So the first thing that you have to do, and we talk about this in our training system, there are 3 levels of change: effort, progress, and results. In the first 4 to 6 sessions, you are looking for effort, effort, effort. Stay away from constructive feedback. Just stay away from it. Help people feel good about getting better. If someone's making an effort, hug it, kiss it, nurture it, pat it on the back, pat it on the rump, pat anything you can. Really reward it, because what you're really saying is keep going. Then when you go in the direction of progress and you pinpoint it and you specifically say, Jill, here's where you're improving, you're raising their awareness of their own strengths. And that's a muscle. Self-awareness is a muscle. And once they become aware of their strengths, another door opens. And it's where they can become self-aware of opportunities where they can raise their game. So you have to create a momentum and a continuum in the relationship, in the conversation. And the conversation isn't an event. It's a series of conversations woven together. Be relentlessly positive towards somebody looking in that mirror. The minute they look in the mirror and say, I'm not as great a teammate as I could be, or I have the opportunity to raise my game to be a better leader internally, or whatever it might be. The rest of it becomes easier. So often people will get morphed into coaching through feedback. Well, I keep telling him, he's not very positive. How many times did you do that? Well, about 3 or 4. Is it working? No. So you kept doing the same thing? I just said this to a leader the other day, and she said, no. I go, so how are you going to successfully change it up? How are you going to get them to look at themselves maybe from a different perspective? She goes, I don't know. I don't know how. I'm kind of at my wit's end. I said, oh, okay. I said, here's something called the third party question. So, John, if your best friend were here right now and he or she honestly had to say one thing you could do to assist the team at maybe a potentially higher level, what do you think he or she would say? That distracts the mind from you're the one asking the question. They're thinking about this element over here being their best friend. And initially, when we built this technique, we would use the phrase, the fairy godmother comes out of the sky in a bright pink dress. And that imagery does what? It gets them thinking about that image, not how to answer negatively, not how to answer defensively. It lowers their defenses a little bit. So the key to self-awareness coaching is ask questions. What did you learn? What did you learn about yourself you're positively committed to? What are the positive action steps you're going to take going forward? What could we do together to facilitate that? Hopefully you notice, you better, because I do this all day long. I feel like a basket case by 4 o'clock because I role play and practice. Hopefully you hear it coming off my tongue fluently. This is not a criticism. This is what leaders need to do. They need to practice, and they need to truly, truly look in the mirror. I think about sales and coaching kind of mirroring each other, right? Open-ended questions, active listening. There's a lot of similar attributes we want from both parties. What do we hate about salespeople? They do what too much? They talk too much. I often say this about leaders. When you're giving a directive to your employee and they're doing this, and I say this all the time, and we think they're agreeing with us, they're nodding off. They cannot wait for this meeting to end. So the reason we ask questions is so they can self-discover. 85%, according to Tasha Urich's work in self-awareness, 85% of people are typically not being honest with themselves in terms of where they're at with self-awareness, meaning they're cutting themselves off from the good stuff, not only their strengths, but the areas where they can raise their game. Let me know. Put some comments in the chat. Let us know if this was helpful. We do these things on a weekly basis, and sometimes you do them in a vacuum. You don't know if you're making an impact. So put some comments in. Let us know if there's a way we can help you, and I hope this finds you well. Thanks for your time.